When you have people dying at a car show, you know there's a problem. And that has continued to be the case for what seems to be what Wildwood turned into last year. Ocean City, H2Oi, that entire Maryland car show ideology has literally caused so much catastrophe, both for people that are in the car scene and for people that aren't in the car scene and now hate car enthusiasts because of it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about it because Ocean City and the state legislature actually just released a new bill that's going to make it even more difficult in the state where Ocean City is located to host car shows, meets, pop-ups, and things like that. So I'm AlexMartini with 2 underscores on Instagram, and today we're talking about the car show that killed someone. And as direct as that sounds, it is important to hear because it's not just happening in Ocean City, it's happening in a lot of different places where it's starting to eclipse this like point of no return. And I think that if we don't take care of it, at least as a community, we're kind of screwed because most of the time, places like Ocean City, places like the Wisconsin Dells, Houston, Texas, Los Angeles, they don't really want people like us. And they probably don't really even need people like us. So to give you a little bit of backstory, H2Oi is a car show that's been hosted as a meet for over like 20 years, actually. It was a group of friends that had like maybe 100, 200 cars at the beginning of this event, spend a weekend in a pretty place to enjoy the European car culture, like the Volkswagen scene, that whole thing. That's it. It's as simple as that. And over time, it grew. Like thousands of car enthusiasts have been stated that they've been looking forward to the event that happens in September in Ocean City, Maryland. Since I would argue about 2016, it started to get worse. Ocean City, it eventually just kind of turned into like a weekend playground. I know friends that have gone to it that haven't done anything wrong, but they've taken videos and pictures and things like that because as the event began to grow, the amount of police grew with it and it got really bad. It got really bad. So much so that even in 2018, the H2O International Car Show actually officially left Worcester County to set up shop at a New Jersey hotel. They pretty much got pushed out. And last year in Wildwood, somebody was killed. And I don't want to make light of that. I don't want it to be like a clickbaity thing, but what it really is that somebody was driving erratically that was there for the event and sped into a car and then essentially tried to run off and got arrested. Now, when this happened, the person that actually caused the crash was 37. He was driving a 2003 Infiniti when he crashed into a 2014 Honda Civic and then hit 2 pedestrians afterwards. I've actually talked about this exact situation in a video, I think last year, where I more so talked about people in street takeovers, which we're gonna get to that too, but how entitled the car scene was when that happened because you had that accident occur, there were people had passed away, and instead of being almost kind and patient for the first responders that were trying to take care of the situation, you had a bunch of teenagers recording them, yelling at police officers, telling them that they can't be touched and that they can record if they want to. Overall, it was just like an ugly situation. I think it painted a really poor picture for 90% of the car enthusiasts that are out there. So fast forward to now. Ocean City went through and essentially put together an exhibition driving bill that supported statewide that puts a whole bunch of additional restrictions on what you can or can't do as it relates to pretty much this event, no matter where they are in the state. So essentially, the new bill cracks down on offenders who participate in races or speed contests. Speed contests, not speeding, not racing, but speed contests, which can really be taken up by anyone that has a book, that is a cop, that understands that if you even press it a little bit in your car, maybe that's a speed contest. And engage in exhibition driving on any highway or private property that is used for public driving. That statement right there is super important because what it does is it now allows the police to almost enforce laws on private property that could be used for public driving, which is pretty much a lot of those resort parking lots, those public areas where people are on a public road, they go to a Burger King. On a public road, they head to a water park that's off the strip and they go to park. If there's any sort of bad behavior that's happening in those areas, this would allow them to also enforce tickets, citations, and all that sort of good stuff. It would also mandate court appearances for offenders, assess 8 points for offenses that result in no bodily injury, and 12 for those with bodily injury. Like if you get caught, you're screwed. And they give the police the ability to impound vehicles on the spot. They've already done that if they're determined unsafe, or driven by somebody with a suspended or revoked license. People were stoked about this. This is the scary part, is that typically when you see something that's this aggressive, particularly when it comes down to private property, when you start saying, hey, we can enforce the law on private property just as much on public property, most people would say absolutely not. Most businesses would say absolutely not. But there are people out there that said, please leave what we have intact. What you did with the language that was on the books in Ocean City worked so well and was successful. Just make that statewide. That was the reaction for this law. That's how bad H2Oi was causing this city in terms of like pain. And when you look at H2Oi, it's not even there anymore. It's not even like the car show that's there. What Ocean City has now turned into is the thing that we all have a tendency to ridicule and then also give the same amount of fuel because we're upset that it's happening. And that is those street takeovers. It's happening in a lot of popular cities. It's shutting down a lot of really good things in California, in Texas, in Florida, and it doesn't really seem to be stopping because H2Oi is still getting the slander of anything that happens in the city because they are the ones that started it. So no matter what they do as an organization, H2Oi is almost stained indefinitely. Even though the people that probably went and didn't do anything wrong and just went for a good car weekend car show, now they're f***ed. They're screwed. They are without a doubt absolutely smashed. And that's what sucks about this. And if that's not enough, this is what's happening in Wisconsin too. You see, in Wisconsin, there's an event called Automotion. At Automotion, it's the third weekend of May every single year. It's hosted in the Wisconsin Dells. And what's there is what's called the Automotion Classic Car Show. It's an event that I think happens at the Olympia Resort, and it's a good show. I've been to it. It's exciting. It's a little old. It's sometimes a little boring, but it is fun. The cars that go are really cool. But as the generations changed over from people modifying 80s Camaros and went into 2000 Civics, Automotion started to change. And those people's kids started coming with their cars and they didn't have anywhere to go, nowhere, because the show didn't accept them. And so the city's response to it typically was, we don't care. So there was events that popped up over time. There was a show there called Battle of the Imports. A year later, I ran a car club called Wisconsin Car Enthusiast Club. We hosted something the afternoon after Battle of the Imports called Wisconsin Modified, because a ton of people in the automotive car scene were going to this event. They were going to this weekend because it wasn't just about the classic car show. It was the fact that there was a group of automotive enthusiasts coming together for a weekend to have fun. And 95% of the time, there was nothing bad happening. The younger car enthusiasts had nowhere to go before we hosted the car shows, and now they did. They would go, they'd arrive in Wisconsin Dells on Friday night, they'd park their car, they'd get into their hotel room, they'd usually sit out, they'd drink with their buddies, they'd go to sleep, they'd wake up Saturday morning, and they would go to Battle of the Imports that ran in the morning for like 5 hours. Then they would take their cars and they'd come over to Wisconsin Modified and they'd show their car in the afternoon, they'd hang out in the sun. It was a fantastic event. And then afterwards, they go back to their hotels. Some people went to the water park. Some people just sat outside and watched cars cruise up and down the strip. And 90% of the time, there was nothing wrong. But it was the 10% that absolutely ruined it. It ruined it so much that trying to work with the local city and the local legislature and the city council was impossible. I still really do not agree, nor do I like the Lake Delton City Council, because I think what they did was wrong. They took this blanket approach to anyone that was under the age of like 35 and said, if you're young, you're the problem. If you're old, you're never the problem. And it created a lot of animosity in the automotive car scene. So much so that now Battle of the Imports and Wisconsin Modified aren't even allowed to host on the weekend. And what happened after we weren't allowed to host on the weekend? Traffic exploded, citations exploded, people were racing up and down the streets because they had nothing else to do. People were still going to this city regardless on if there were events or not. We just managed to get them off the road for a few years. That is what's happening in Ocean City, where there's so much of this like pent up energy for a sideshow now. It's become a street takeover that the original group of people, they're still getting blamed for it even though they have nothing to do with it. Even though they're not even there anymore. And they're still getting blamed for the bad activities that are taking place. But street takeovers, that's the problem. Mob mentality, those are the problems. The people that think that they can do anything that they want if they're in a group of people, those people are the problems. And I've said it before, if you have a motorcycle and you've been in a motorcycle group before and you've done a cruise and you're with 20 sport bikes, you know what a mob mentality is. You can do literally anything you want and you will never feel like you'll get in trouble because you have a helmet on, nobody knows who you are, you can take your your plate off, and unless you crash into somebody, or you crash yourself, or you die, or you accidentally kill someone, nobody will ever know that you were even there. That is a really dangerous thing to be a part of. Street takeovers, they're the same exact thing, except instead of 2 wheels, it's 4 wheels. And that's what's ruining it, because these older individuals, the people that run the cities and the states, I think they're trying to do the right thing. They're trying to do whatever it is that's best for the community. But they don't see the difference between street takeovers and a car enthusiast. They just see that somebody with a car was driving excessively fast and killed somebody. And that has caused them to look poorly upon anyone that looks like or could be perceived as somebody that would also want to drive fast and potentially hurt somebody. I don't think this person that took another person's life ever went to Ocean City to do that. I don't think he ever thought that anything like that would ever happen. But the problem is that it did. And now we have another city that looks poorly upon car enthusiasts as a whole. Mob mentalities are the worst thing for the car community or any community to be a part of, because once the cities start to kind of pick at it, once they start putting legislation in place, we lose. We lose every single time. We will never win against state legislation because we just can't. You just can't. It's a shitty situation to be in. And now with more laws coming in that are getting praised to say, we don't care if you accelerate fast, we don't care if you look like you're going fast, we don't care if you're parked in a parking lot. If we have any inclination that you are doing something that you shouldn't be doing, you can get ticketed, impounded, arrested, with your license revoked. Now you start have to asking yourself, is that overreaching, or is that something that was deserved because of the actions that already happened? So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this topic. This was definitely an interesting one for me, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, specifically because I see this, I saw it happen at Automotion, and I'm hearing that it's happening at Texas 2K, and I know it's gonna keep happening the more trouble we get ourselves in. So let me know in the comment section below. If you're not subscribed, please be sure to subscribe. It's the best way that you can possibly help me out for March Martini Madness. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Alex, AlexMartini with 2 underscores on Instagram, and we will see you later. Adios.